Hello friends and welcome to another video. Got a question recently about Content ID. I've been talking about Content ID lately because this is something that I have just recently joined. And I want to share my journey with Content ID and how I progress in this world of music licensing. When it comes down to updates in royalty-free libraries and different marketplaces, we always have to adapt and we always have to change, if you will, with this ever-evolving industry. Content ID is something that a lot of libraries do not accept. But let me rephrase that again. It's not that a lot of libraries do not accept any Content ID music. I think there's just a handful of them anyways as I am recording this, because Content ID is quite the standards nowadays for a lot of reasons. But to answer to the question, and I don't want to drag this too long, but to answer to the question, there is a library that do not accept Content ID. And it's not the library itself, it's actually one of the services that they offer for us composers. That library is Motion Elements. And Motion Elements, you can take part of what is called the global marketplace or something like that anyways. And what it is that you opt in for certain extra things that you can offer your music in a subscription type of format, if you will. I believe it's called the global marketplace or global partner or something. They do specify that if you are with Content ID, then you're not going to be able to take part. You're not going to be able to opt in. This is an optional thing anyways. When I joined Motion Elements years ago, I took part in it. I just take all the boxes and just have my music available for this program. And yes, I have seen some income from that for sure. So I have the option to sell my music not only on a one-time basis, but as well I can have that music track available for the subscription model that they have in place. Obviously, as I am joining Content ID, I have to opt out of that. That's just one example. Okay, but there's other libraries that they don't have a problem with you having your music with Content ID. The fact that I'm recording these videos and I'm documenting my journey, I want to show you how this whole thing works, precisely for that reason. Because, you know, if you register all of your music tracks, like in my case, I'm registering everything. I'm not even done yet. You know, there's still music tracks that are quite old that I haven't really registered. And I've done a video about the whole process of registering your music with Content ID. But most royalty-free libraries accept Content ID music register. So I don't think it's a problem for me that I'm even registering old tracks. The metadata, in theory, you update the metadata of the tracks. You know, for example, on a library like Audio Jungle, I will have to go in and say, yeah, this track is now registered with Content ID. And I actually, in Audio Jungle, they take it a step further. I have to grab some type of a banner and I have to put it underneath the track in the description, which is a pain. I mean, it looks great once the customer lands on that page for that track and they can see that this track is being registered with Content ID, but that information is already in the description and all the metadata in Audio Jungle. Some other libraries, they don't have this type of detailed information about the track. Motion Array is another library where they're very picky with the metadata. And it's a little bit of a pain because then you have to put the register track, the title that you register the track, but that title that you register that track with Content ID, you still have to update it in Motion Array because Motion Array wants you to create an original artistic title. It's a pain because they don't want a track that is called corporate music or corporate inspirational, right? They want something a little bit more original, I guess, okay? However, the track that you compose is called corporate inspirational. And when you went to Content ID and register that track with that title, it's registered like that. Now, titles doesn't mean anything with Content ID because what matters is actually the track itself, the music that is being fingerprinted. I mean, the metadata might help with content ID, but when I reach out to them with one of my tracks that had a different title, it might help, but what support told me with content ID is that this is the actual track, the piece of music, because it's a digital fingerprint, that's what it is, on the actual file, okay? But with motion array, you have to actually put the title of the track that you registered with content ID. So you have to come up with a new title because they don't want corporate inspirational on motion array. And I'm just using this as an example again, because we're talking about metadata and you were asking this. So I have to come up with an original title that is not corporate inspirational, even though I register with content ID corporate inspirational. But they still want to know inside in motion array for that track, they want to know what title did you register this track with content ID, okay? So you have to input the original title, but you still have to come up with a new title for the actual track because in motion array, they want something a little bit more artistic. The same goes with PRO, okay? So yes, it is a pain. With some libraries, it's just a pain. Now with motion array, they do accept content ID, but you have to be very, very careful with the information that you provide. I'm going to say it again, it's a pain because it's more work for me, it's more work for all composers to not only register the track, not only update this, not only come up with the titles. At the end of the day, it's a stock track. So I don't know why some libraries make such a big deal out of names and titles, but there you go. Go figure. Other libraries, they have no problem with you just being composer that registers his music with content ID. I mean, it's kind of like a standard practice nowadays, all right? Content ID has been around for many years, and you know, I mean, to the point that even I joined content ID, you know, and I've seen some results already. So I'm really excited to just document more of my journey here, and when it comes to the income, I'm very curious to see where my music is being used. And to get more technical about it, there are some customers who bought a track years ago, and those tracks are now registered with content ID. So even though they have purchased a license, they might have some issues with that license, even though they have purchased a track, but the track now that they purchased back then was not registered with content ID, but now it is. Okay, so there are many things that you have to be aware that might happen, and you will deal with them as they come, okay? I'm not stressing about this because if I have a client that contacts me and says, I bought this track from you back in 2017 or whatever, and I'm getting a strike on YouTube or whatever, you know, then there is a way to clear that. It's no big deal. But if somebody is downloading that track or has taken it somehow and is using it in a way that it shouldn't be used, then I want to be compensated for that. Okay, so the only way to guarantee that this is working is by registering everything that I have ever composed and everything that I am going to compose as well, especially because it's a fingerprint, right? It's not like registering your music with a PRO, which is a different topic for another video because it's not a fingerprint that the music track has. So I think it's very important to always be proactive when it comes down to anything that you want to do in terms of content ID, PROs, joining subscription libraries as well. I mean, I'll give you another example. When I got started, you had nowhere to talk about PROs. Okay, on a library like Audio Jungle, for example, it didn't say anything like, are you a member of a PRO or not? And then one day they sent an email to all the composers. It was kind of like a survey email to see if we were affiliated with a PRO. And this was very scary for some, I guess, because a lot of composers were affiliated with a PRO, me included. I was affiliated with a PRO since day one. And, you know, I was active in a royalty-free library, in this case, Audio Jungle, that's where I started. And there was nowhere in my account settings to say that if I was involved with a PRO or not. And then out of the blue, we get this email. And this was years later, by the way. This was not immediate. This was like after being pretty active on Audio Jungle, selling music, and they just sent this email, and it was kind of like a confusing time because a lot of people were like, should I put that I am affiliated with a PRO? And if so, then are they going to cancel my account because it's a royalty-free library? And, you had to say yes or no. In fact, they changed after that. They changed the settings on your accounts when you join Audio Jungle, meaning that when you go to Audio Jungle back in the day, because now you cannot join, the doors are closed for new composers. But when you will open an account, it will clearly state that you have to say if you're affiliated with a PRO, yes or no, and you couldn't change it as soon as you open your account. But I joined way before that. So after receiving that email and saying, yes, I am affiliated with a PRO and these are my details, then it was just a matter of updating our account. And that's what we did. And it was no surprise to see that a lot of composers on Audio Jungle, especially the bestsellers, are affiliated with a PRO. Not only affiliated with a PRO, but they have their own publishing in place, meaning that they deal with everything. Okay, I'm only registered with BMI as a composer, but this is a topic for another video. You could be registered as a composer and as a publisher as well. But those were changes, big changes. I mean, massive changes in a library like Audio Jungle, which is a royalty-free library, it's a stock library. And we didn't know. I mean, we had no idea what was going on. We'll go to the forum and people were like, should I say yes, even though I am? And people who were not affiliated with a PRO, they were wondering if they should now, because they now accepted people that had affiliation with a PRO. And this is kind of like a big change now in stock music, because we've been told that you cannot sell music that is, the composers that are affiliated with a PRO. I mean, that's what is being talked about even to this day. Okay, I've done videos about this, by the way, of how much misinformation is out there when it comes to stock libraries and performing royalties and royalty-free libraries and all of the rest. Because a lot of people are saying that you cannot earn money, with performing royalties or if you're affiliated with a PRO and selling music on stock libraries. So there's a reason why now you can have a stock track on a library like Pond 5 or Motion Array or Audio Jungle and all of the rest. And if you're new to this, want to know about the libraries, download my free guide, link in the description. But now this is common practice that many composers are affiliated with a PRO and they just sell music on royalty-free libraries and they register your tracks with your PRO, with BMI or ASCAP or whatever happens to be your PRO. So those changes, I lived through those changes in the marketplace and I adapt accordingly. Then it came the part of subscription. Different libraries work in different ways. And I know I'm making this video longer than it has to be because I get the question about Content ID, but I wanted to do a little bit more in-depth analysis of what I've gone through with this market changes, marketplace changes, because I think that there was something in that comment, in that question that you were asking about the metadata, and eventually, the market is always going to change. There's always going to be new changes. There's always going to be updates, and who knows what's going to be next. But when it comes down to fingerprint, when it comes down to Content ID, which is fingerprinting, and when it comes down to PROs and subscription, those are the three major changes in libraries. So subscription came into place, and different libraries work in different ways, like I was mentioning with motion elements. All of these libraries have the motion in the title. Can you come up with a better title for your library? If I was going to release a royalty-free library or a stock library, the last thing that I will include in my library will be the name motion. Such a boring name. Motion array, motion elements. Anyways, that's a rant for another video as well. But when subscriptions library came into play, some libraries, they will give you the option to opt in. And then some other libraries made it a little bit more difficult, like, for example, Envato elements. That's another word in the title, elements. such a boring word. If I had a stock library today, I would definitely will not use motion in the title anywhere, or the word element. It's just such a boring titles for libraries. But motion, not motion, but Envato elements, you can't really join. You have to go by invitation. I've talked about this in many, many videos before. I think you can apply. The audio section on Envato elements is closed, I believe. You can't even submit anything. But when they launched Envato elements, music was the last part of the marketplace to be included in that subscription, which is a subscription marketplace. So I think first was video, templates, I don't remember now. Then it was photography, it was stock photo that was part of Envato element, which is again subscription. Then they close, in Envato elements, they close PhotoTune, or they did something. You can't submit any more photos there. I don't remember what happened, but they did something with the photos in the Envato marketplace. And if this sounds confusing, I understand, but it's just marketplaces where they actually offer certain products like templates, video, photos, and music. And we belong in the music part of it because we're composers. But I think in Envato market, they closed in PhotoTune, I think it was called. You couldn't submit any more photos, and a lot of photographers were going crazy about it. And I don't know if that had to do with a subscription in Envato Elements. And then finally, they allowed musicians to start submitting music for Envato Elements, meaning that you had to be a composer in Audio Jungle. I think the criteria was, I don't think it had to do with sales. I don't remember the criteria. Okay, I don't remember the criteria, but you had to be active in Audio Jungle. You don't have to be a bestseller, or you don't have to be an author that is an elite author with some special badge or anything. You just had to be active. So I got an email one time a few years ago, and with an invitation to join Envato Elements. And I've done a video here about it. And I joined. And I think one of the conditions, once you write the agreement, the thing is that you have to be active. Like, you have to be publishing music. So it's not like you join Envato Elements and you move some tracks. The way it works there is that the tracks that you have in Audio Jungle, you move them to Envato Elements. So the tracks have to be first accepted by the marketplace, by a reviewer, and then you move those tracks to Envato Elements. And that's the way it works. So every time I upload a new track to Audio Jungle, I have a part in that track where I can update that and put this track to sell on Envato Element. That's the way it works. But I think one of the conditions was that you need to be active. So it's not like you just join, move your old tracks, and then don't compose any more music. You have to be active. That's the whole point. But that's just one of the changes. In other libraries like Motion Elements, they just give you the option to opt in, and that's that. And with Pond 5, I believe it's the same. If you want to be part of the subscription, you just opt in, and that's that. But other libraries talking about updates of this type, before they didn't accept PRO registered music, is melody loops. And I've talked about melody loops for many, many years, and people were just bombarding me with all of these questions about PRO, the fact that I am affiliated with BMI, but I sell my music on melody loops, and I'm openly talking about melody loops here on the channel and how I make money with melody loops. It just gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes, because I know that you stress out. You want to know everything before you take action. And you want to make sure that you're playing by the rules. And I'm not here to say that you need to break the rules, but I'm just saying that I've been there, man. I've been there. And I'm going to do a separate video about this, but I've done a video already about how I lost my passport because I wanted to... So ridiculous. I feel ashamed of saying this, but I lost my passport before I started to do music licensing with royalty-free libraries because I wanted to have all the tax information in place so I can join a BMI and be able to sell my music online. But I need to do a video about that. I already done a video about it, but I've been there. I've been so paralyzed by trying to analyze what's the right thing to do. And the truth of the matter is that I was not making the music, I was not selling anything, and I was just trying to get all the paperwork in place, like I was doing something, majestic, and all I wanted to do is just sell a music track online. But I get it. I get that a lot of people get overwhelmed and like, oh, you're not allowed to do this, you can't do that, oh, now you're with a PRO, can you sell your music over there and what over here, and yeah, I've been there. But Melody Loops is another library that they did not accept PRO music, and the way they had it phrased, it was terrible. And I contacted Alex, who is the CEO of the library. They're lovely people. It's a small library. And, anyways, fast forward to today, now they accept PRO music. Now they have updated that part. Because when I spoke to Alex, and I said, like, listen, I got all these people asking me about this. And, he told me, like, we are looking into accepting PRO registered music in the future, so it's going to be fine. So I said, like, I've been here before, like a lot of other libraries before, we didn't know if it was allowed or not, but then they said, okay. So it's no big deal. There's ways around this. Again, it's not about breaking the rules. It's about just being proactive with certain things and then, moving forward. You can always change and adapt in this marketplace one way or another. And those who are not able to adapt, then, they get paralyzed, paralysis by analysis, and they don't do anything. So Melody Loops is another example of a library that has just recently changed. And now you can, they accept the PRO registered music. You can select it or not if you have registered. And of course, Content ID. But, I wouldn't stress too much about it. I mean, if you're starting out and you're not making any sales or you don't have music online, I wouldn't stress too much about it. Either you are affiliated with a PRO or not, or you are with Content ID. I mean, the choice is yours. But for me, I'm always changing, always evolving, joining new libraries. If a library nowadays says to me, like, we don't accept Content ID registered music, then I don't join it. That's it, simple as that. But that's my take on it. All the other libraries that I'm part of, they all accept Content ID music, so I'm not worried about that. And that's that, But anyways, this is a longer video that I wanted to do, working on some music as usually. And, thank you so much for the love and support. Thank you for all the questions. I'm going to try to answer to more questions in a video format and hopefully give you more insights into the world of stock music. I'll see you in another video, my friend.